promise God told him. And if we're honest today, David, we too can remember a time when God revealed a promise that was to come. But then it was weeks, months, and even years later, and some of us are still waiting. God said your breakthrough is coming, but you're still dealing with mess. God said your latter days will be greater, but you are still unemployed. God made the promise, but you're walking around wondering, when will you see it come to pass? And that's where the Israelites found themselves, stuck in the wilderness longer than they planned, with no promise in sight, Brigitte. Leaving Egypt and wandering in the wilderness must have felt like they were going from one crisis to another, out of the frying pan and right into the fire. Because physical freedom is one thing. But you see, David Jr., it's an entire different thing to still be in mental bondage. Last week, we talked about the importance of freeing your mind. We came to understand to be free from mental bondage is to hold on to the promises of God. He promised never to leave us nor forsake us. His promise that nothing will separate us from his love. And he promised that no matter what you're dealing with, his grace is sufficient. The song says, you made a way. But after God made a way for our ancestors to have their freedom with the signing of the Emancipation Proclamation, Mama Ann, it was the mental bondage that convinced many blacks to remain in the South because, as we said last week, due to their mental captivity, they didn't think anything was better in the North. And so just like the Israelites, enslaved African Americans cried out to God and waited for the day the Lord would set them free. But just like the Israelites, family, they too began to murmur and found themselves in a position that challenged their trust in God's provision because of the unknown circumstance. Somebody say unknown.
Unknown.
Because if there's one thing that makes us uncomfortable as a human race, it's the unknown. Not knowing how things are going to work out. Bottom line is, y'all, as a human race, we nosy. Y'all know we are. We want to know it all. I want to know how. I want to know when. I want to know the colors. I want to know the date. I want to know everything. Which way is it going to work out? How is it going to work out? Will it work out? Will the money come this week? Will my breakthrough happen by 5 o'clock on Tuesday? Because, you know, I got something to do on Wednesday. Will the man I prayed for find me before I'm 50? Will the woman I looked for be willing to come with me and leave everything behind? We will worry God until we're blue in the face. How God? When God? What God? And even who God? But when we can walk in total freedom from the mental stress and worries that hold us hostage, we can turn those questions to God into affirmations. So instead of posing to God a question, Miss Lemmon, we can turn around and say an affirmation. God, I don't know how, but I know you're going to make a way. I don't know when, but I know you're always on time. I don't know where, but I know your ways are not my ways. God, I don't know what or who, but I know that your grace is sufficient. God has a plan to prosper you and not to harm you. You've got to declare like In Vogue. Y'all remember In Vogue back in the day? Free your mind and the rest will follow. Be colorblind, don't be so shallow. Come on now, don't make me get my In Vogue up here. But we've got to free our minds. Well, the Israelites in our text, they struggled with that. They struggled with freeing their minds like many people in 2019. As far as they were concerned, their journey in the wilderness was nothing but more bondage. You see, they left the truths that they knew about slavery to follow a God that they never saw before. What do you mean, preacher, the truths about slavery? Well, even though they were in slavery and they were in bondage, they knew what they needed to do if they wanted to eat. They knew how they needed to act if they wanted to stay alive. There were some truths about their bondage that they knew. They knew the truths that had become comfortable for them, even while in captivity. And it's a sad thing, David, when people have been in bondage so long that they find more comfort in their confinement than they do in the thought or idea of being free. The Israelites knew the truth about slavery, but now they've chosen to follow the leadership of the same man that helped keep them in bondage, the man known as Moses. How do they trust somebody that they once called master? The one who lived with the Egyptians, ate with the Egyptians, and walked around as an Egyptian. The one whom the king appeared to love more than his own son. The one who once wore the mark of a prince. How do they know he's not leading them to be slaughtered like sheep set up? Well, my brothers and sisters, it's these type of questions that help us to understand why the Israelites didn't just have a question about Moses' motives, but they also questioned God's motives. How many of you know that you've questioned God's motives at least once or twice? God, why you got me here? God, what are you looking for me to do? God, what is your plan for my life? God, when am I supposed to get out of this situation? God, why did you allow this to happen to me? Any of these kind of questions sound familiar? Because sometimes when we don't understand God's plan, we begin to question his leadership. And because the Israelites didn't have answers to their why, their hows, their whats, or their whos, they saw their circumstance as being led into 40 years of homelessness and 40 years of a final punishment. Because for them, the wilderness was a place of abandonment. It was a place of isolation, and it was a place of loneliness. Anybody know about those kind of wilderness? Where you feel alone, you feel abandoned, and you feel like nobody is around. Seems like nobody is there when you need to talk to them. Every time your friend calls you and texts you, you're always there. But nobody's around when you need a voice, a shoulder, or just a hug. Ever been there before? But the truth of the matter is, church, is that it's not always about somebody else understanding you. Because let's get real, sometimes you don't understand you. Amen. Amen. But because the Israelites were so stuck and focused on the fact of being in the wilderness, they missed that God had made them a vow. Look at the text. It shows that the vow is right there in verse 8. God declared to give the home of the Canaanites, the Hittites, the Amorites, the Perizzites, the Hivites, and the Jebusites. He promised, he gave a vow to give them something that belonged to somebody else. Did you get that? God didn't say that you're going to have to work for it. God didn't say that you have to give up something to get something. He said he was just going to give it to them. Amen. But what makes them even more excited is that what he was giving them currently belonged to their enemies. So essentially God is saying, not only will I prepare a table before you in the presence of your enemies, but baby, I'm also going to bless you with everything that your enemies thought belonged to them. In other words, get ready. God is about to flip the script on your enemies and give you everything they thought they had control of. They thought they had control over you when they tried to give you the court papers. They thought they had control of you when they tried to set you up to be fired. They thought they had control of you by taking everything that belonged to you. But God is saying, if you just hold on, I'm about to flip the script. And what your enemies thought that they had, I'm about to give it to you. Yes. Yes. But you have to be willing to take the route through the wilderness. I know that's right. You see, the Israelites didn't realize that a direct route would have led them through one of their most powerful enemies, the Philistines. You see, they had 7 enemies, and the Philistines were their most powerful one. The way through the wilderness was where God could hide them from their enemies. Is where God could cover them from their enemies. Is where God could isolate them away from their enemies. Because the Israelites missed that earlier on, when Moses was talking to Pharaoh, he gave instructions per God. And that was to let them come in the wilderness, in the desert, to worship me. They saw the desert and the wilderness as a place of loneliness, but the fact is it was their place of worship. In other words, church, it was their sanctuary.
Wow.
Somebody say, my wilderness is my sanctuary.
My wilderness is my sanctuary.
Oh, yes.
Wow.
The wilderness can be a place where sometimes you feel alone and you feel like you're facing all your trials by yourself. But baby, it's also a place of intimacy. A place of privateness, a place where you are free from distractions, just you and God, a place where God can cover you and hide you. Look at Abraham. He encountered God in the wilderness. Look at Jacob in the wilderness. Look at our friend Moses. It was in the wilderness on the Mount Sinai that him and God met up for the first time. That's because the wilderness is also a place to encounter God. Or as I like to say it, it's your sanctuary. According to theologians, featured in the writings of the Africana Bible, Minister Dayon, the word sanctuary comes from the Latin word sanctus. Somebody say sanctus.
Sanctus.
Sanctus means a sacred place. But get this, they called it a sacred place because during the medieval times, it was where a fugitive could have immunity from the law and not get arrested. The sanctuary was a place in the medieval times where a fugitive can hide out and not be arrested by the law. Well, let me tell you, that don't work in 2019. Negroes will call 911 on you quick. Don't think you can come into church and hide. But the fact is, during that time, it was their hiding place. During the medieval period, as long as a fugitive was in the sanctuary, they could not be touched. Well, preacher, how does it help me? I'm not no fugitive. Well, I'm glad you asked, because every last one of us in here is one. You see, back in the day, when we used to do everything we thought we were big and bad enough to do, y'all remember, we partied hard, partied like it's 1999, stayed out all day, all night, did whatever with whoever, hung out with whomever we wanted to, did whatever we wanted to, went wherever we wanted to, and even when we got into trouble, we were crazy enough to go back and do it again. Because some of us had to learn lessons more than once. We did everything we thought we were big and bad enough to do, played right into the enemy's hands. In fact, the devil had us on his billboard as his #1 supporter. But then it happened. One day you got sick and tired of being sick and tired. And before the enemy realized it, baby, you discovered that can't nobody do you like Jesus.
Man.
And so the day you told the devil, you know what, I found me a new man whose love is unconditional. And this relationship right here is over. Because when you came to Jesus, baby, you realized that you became a fugitive to the enemy. Ever since the day you escaped from the enemy's clutches, ever since the day that God delivered you from the enemy's camp, that joker has been trying to pull you back with everything he can throw at you. He's been using your old friends that you used to hang out with. All of a sudden they text you saying, come on, let's meet up together. He's been using your co-workers sanctuary. Somebody say sanctuary.
Sanctuary. Yes.
You are now in the place where your enemy can't touch you.
Amen.
Because in this place,
Yes.
in God's house, in his sanctuary, we serve a Savior that will go to the judge on our behalf and declare, this one belongs to me. This one called my name. This one prayed on their knees last night. And don't even worry about it, judge. I already paid the bill. You see, because the blood still works. The enemy didn't realize that when the Israelites took the blood and put it over the doorpost, it was so that the death angel could pass by. Well, baby, the death angel is still passing by. He tried to kill you in 1990. He tried to take you out in 2002. He tried to sit you down in 2015. He tried to shut you up in 2017. And just 2 months ago, he tried to put you 6 feet under. But the devil is a liar because the blood still works. How many of you know it still works? It will never lose its power. I became a fugitive the moment I escaped the clutches of the enemy. But today, when I called on the name of Jesus, I received immunity. Somebody say, I got immunity.
I got immunity. Woo.
My God.
Yes.
Immunity was what God gave me when he gave me the vow to never leave me nor forsake me.
Woo.
It's a vow from God. The enemy thought he was coming with your arrest warrant papers. He thought he was going to take you back. He thought he had all of the evidence stacked up against you. He thought there was no way you were getting out of this one. But God told the devil, hold up. You have papers, but so do I. I got documents that says that they called on my name. I got documents that said that they accepted me. I got documents that said they gave their heart to me. I got documents that says effective the day that they entered the sanctuary and accepted my proposal, that they belong to me.
Yes.
So today, God says, accept my proposal. Accept my ring. And don't just date me. Marry me.
Amen. Yes.
Be mine.
Yes.
Now and forever. And if you are willing to accept that, he says, I will make a vow with you at the altar. What is that vow? He says, I will look at you as you gaze at me. Y'all remember that day. So in love, Brigitte. All smiles. God said, I'm going to meet you at the altar, and you will hear me speak to you. I, the Lord, do take these my people to free them from their spiritual bondage, to provide for them, to love them when they're right and love them when they're wrong, to protect them from anyone who tries to oppress them, to always keep watch over them with grace on one side and mercy on the other, until death separates them from this world and brings them to glory with me. Oh yes, baby, God made a vow that offers us immunity. All you have to do is say yes to his proposal. I need you to tell 3 people and tell them, just tell God yes. Just tell God yes. Just tell him yes to his proposal. Yes, God, I accept your reign. Yes, God, I accept your proposal. Yes, God, I accept you. Tell somebody one more time. Tell God yes.
Tell God yes.
But guess what? I got excited about this part all by myself. You see, marriage proposals, when 2 people get married, especially if you get married to somebody that's filthy rich, they will have you sign a prenup.
Yep.
What's yours is yours. What's mine is mine. Because if this thing ain't working out, you keep what you came with, and I keep what I came with. Well, guess what, baby? When God met you at the altar and gave you a vow to never leave you or forsake you and to offer you a ring of love, it came with no prenup. That made me happy right there, because you see, I came with God with baggage. I came to God with issues. I came to God with nothing to offer but my heart. And he said, well, baby, guess what? Your heart was all I ever wanted. And now that you gave me your heart, everything I have belongs to you, because I am the Alpha and the Omega. I do have all power. Baby, I'm the creator of the universe. Everything you see belongs to me. And because there's no prenup, everything I got now belongs to you. Anybody know that you are excited that God did not make you sign a prenup? Baby, if you need peace, I got it. If you need joy, I got it. If you need comfort right now, I got it. If you need unconditional love, I got it. If you need protection, I got it. Whatever you need, baby, God's got it. And if you accept his proposal today, all of it belongs to you. If you trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not to your own understanding, but in all your ways acknowledge him, he will make your path straight. Everything God has belongs to you if you just accept his proposal. So don't be afraid. Because if you say to God, I do, you will have immunity. Now that doesn't mean that your enemies are not going to pluck your nerves. Shucks, forget your enemies. That don't mean your family ain't going to pluck your nerves. Hello in here. It doesn't mean that life is going to be easy breezy, cool and chilling. No. But what it does mean is that nobody can take you out without God's permission. They might break your nerves, maybe pop a Excedrin. They may get on your nerves, pop a Tylenol. But they can never destroy you. So don't be afraid. You have immunity. How do you know you will be granted this immunity with all the mess that you've had in your life? Because of verse 14. He says, I'm going to fight this battle for you. That means whatever you're going through right now, the battle is not yours. It belongs to God.
Right.
So take your hands off of it.
Right.
Stop trying to fix it yourself. Stop trying to work it out yourself. If God wanted you to handle your own stuff by yourself, then baby, you and I would not be on this planet. Or, matter of fact, you would be here by yourself. But the fact that you're not here by yourself is because God doesn't want you to try to work it out by yourself. But the fact is that God made us a multitude of people. That's because he knew the importance of community. He knew the importance of holding one another up. He knew the importance of us praying with one another. For the song says, for thou, O Lord, are a shield for me, the glory and the lifter of my head. Does anybody know that God has kept your head lifted in times when you felt sorrowful, in times when you felt depressed, in times when you felt in agony? It was God that kept your head lifted. God don't need you to tag him in like a wrestling partner. Like, come on, tag you it. God is saying, you just sit there. I got this. And because God had their backs, Moses had to remind them that God will fight for you. But then there's a final thing about this marriage agreement, about this vow that God makes. And it's right there in our text. Y'all heard me read it. He says that this vow comes with one thing I need you to do, and one thing only. I need you to be still. Somebody say, be still.
Be still.
The Lord will fight for you. You just need to be still. The Israelites, they were trapped. They panicked. They wanted to run. But God spoke, be still. Because what they didn't realize was if they would have moved prematurely, it's likely they would have ran right into the enemy's hands. When you feel like you've come to the end of the road with nowhere to turn, and the enemy is closing in, ready to sell you out for the highest bidder, every nerve in your body tells you to run. But God is saying, nope, be still. The Wilmington Chester Choir used to say, what do I do when I don't know what to do? What do I say when I don't know what to say? I'll stand until your will is clear. Anybody in here knows that you are willing to stand still until God's will is clear for you? Let me tell you, I told y'all before, I don't fight. That's not what I do. So if y'all see the preacher run, y'all better come on, because I ain't going to stand there and help you. But years ago, my mom put my brother and I in martial arts. She probably did it to help me learn how to fight. Well, that was a joke. When we were in sparring matches, our instructor used to say, if we got knocked down, he said, that's because you tried to anticipate your enemy's move. Now, my brother, he's real good. He's now a 3rd-degree black belt instructor. The only belt I have is the one on my jeans. Now, I don't even know what color it is. It might be brown, blue, or green. But he said that the reason you got knocked down, which happened pretty often for me, was because I overly anticipated my enemy's next move. So that's why in martial arts it's important to be still, so that you can see the direction the kick is coming, or you can see the direction the hit is coming. Because if you anticipate they're going to kick you from the left and you step to the right, that's when they'll swing it around and hit you from the right. So you wait and you just stand still. Baby, when the enemy is coming at you like a flood and you try to anticipate what he's going to do next, you will find yourself running right into a trap. Don't get trapped up because your enemy tries to bring confusion. Don't get trapped up because your enemy tries to make you upset and frustrated. But just learn to be still. So when you see the devil attack you on your job, stand still. When the enemy is bothering you in your house, stand still. When you are standing there feeling like that he's trying to attack your character, don't run. Stand still and know that God is able to do just what he said he would do, because he is an able God. He is a competent God. He is a powerful God. All you got to do is be still, because he is able. Anybody know that he's able to do exceedingly, abundantly, above all you can ask, above all that you can think, above all that you can imagine. If you know God is able, stand on your feet and give an able God an able praise. Hallelujah. Hallelujah. Because he is able. He is able to deliver you. He is able to free you. He is able to keep you from bondage. God is able. He's able. He's able to give you immunity. That wilderness, baby, that's your sanctuary. It's not meant for you to catch up with your homeboys that you used to hang out with. That's why God separated you and moved you 20 miles down the street. Because it wasn't meant for y'all to stick together. That's why God gave you a new job. That's why God sent you to a different school. That's why God made it work out the way he made it work out. Because he needed you isolated.
Jesus.
He needed to keep you covered. Don't cry because nobody's around. They don't need to be around. God is around. God is saying that you are in the sanctuary. I'm protecting you here. Nobody can see you here. It's just me and you. And I'm coming down, and God is coming down on his knees saying, will you have me? And he's just waiting for you to say, I do. So that he can give you the vow. Anybody ready to say, I do to God today? Then just say to your spirit, God, I do. I do give you my heart. I do give you my life. I do let go of trying to do everything myself. I do give you full control. God, I'm going to stop trying to hold on to plan B, because your plan is always the best plan. So God, have your way in this place. your power, move by your strength, and move by your might. God, I'm tired of playing church. A whole lot of religious folk play church. God, children play, but adults are serious. And I'm serious about my relationship with you. Have your way, God. God, no more of me pimping you. I don't want to be a spiritual pimp daddy. Only come to you when I need something from you. He's going to bless you because he said he would. But guess what? When you accept his marriage proposal, he got more that you didn't know he had. He wants to give you the more. He's like, I'm going to protect you because my word says I'm going to do it. I'm going to make sure you have food on the table because my word says I was going to do it. I'm going to make sure you're okay because my word says I'm going to do it. But baby, I got extra stored up for you. But I need to know, do you belong to me and do I belong to you? Because I can't give my secret stuff away to just anybody. For little girls, I don't know about boys, but for little girls, as we grow up, and let me fix this right because we have young years, and you start learning about the butterflies. What was it? Bees, butterflies, those things, yeah. Mama, daddy, grandma, granddad said, baby, don't give your secrets away.
Amen.
Because your secrets are intoxicating for the opposite. Baby, God got some secrets he wants to give away to you. But he wants to know, are you willing to get into a real relationship with him? Let him give the overflow to you. Let him just pour out the extras over you. Let every head lift up to God. A lot of times people, when they say bow your head and pray, ain't nothing under my feet but the enemy.
I know that's right.
I like to lift my head up. And you know, you ever see pictures of them showing Jesus praying? Which way is he praying?
Up.
When you see him in the wilderness, what is he doing? He's going like this. When you see pictures of him, isn't he going this way? He ain't looking down here. The enemy is under your feet. There's nothing wrong with bowing down because it's also a form of laying prostrate, laying humble to God. It's nothing wrong with that. But every now and then, look up to the